Welcome. So, do you all have the two texts we're working with, the concise THROMA translation and the THROMA preliminaries? And we'll start with the concise THROMA translation on page 7, the concise, unceasing river of the four empowerments.
I have to find that.
What's that?
I have to find the concise, so I just have to go in my little closet here.
Hi, Carly. I was just reminding people we need the concise, the translation of the concise THROMA and the THROMA preliminaries. We're going to use the concise THROMA to do a prayer at the beginning. On page 7 is the concise, unceasing river of the four empowerments. Is everybody there? Okay. To the lamas of the three lineages and the three Buddha bodies, I pray. To the rare and precious three jewels of refuge, I pray. To the mandalas of the three roots and the conquerors, I pray. To the father lineage of skillful means, I pray. To the mother lineage of wisdom, I pray. To the non-dual lineage of equal union, I pray. To the experiential lineage of realized ones, I pray. To the lineage of profound cutting, I pray. To the Siddha lineage of the awareness holders, I pray. Bestow your blessings upon me, this child who prays to you. Grant the supreme and ordinary attainments. Annihilate male, female, and naga harmful influences, all three, into the state of the fertile expanse of the three Buddha bodies. Cut diseases of wind, bile, and phlegm, all three, within the great fertile expanse of bliss emptiness. Destroy mind, desire, aggression, and ignorance, all three, within the fertile expanse of the great Mother's Buddha mind. Grant your blessings that all sentient beings of the three realms of samsara, within the great, unborn, originally pure basis, self-liberate together at the same time, with the great disciplined conduct of the selflessness of things. This very moment, on this very seat, cut mind, unawareness, demons, and what grasps at demons. May I seize the victorious ground of the fertile expanse of the true Buddha body. Revered Father Guru, grant your grace. And we'll go to the top and do it in Tibetan. Hoi, poi, poi. Kusum, gyusum, lama la, so ade. Koncho rinchen, nam sum la. So ade. Sasung gewe givola. So ade pagitagi yuvala. So ade magi chiraki givala. So adem ni men yam jodi givala. So adem toden yam yogi givala. So pala so ade rigzin trup toki gi pala so ade dak so teki bula Chingilo Chotun Mongiki Ngodruso Limboden Moden Luden Sum Yin Kusung Antu Shi Tu So Ne Lung Tang Ti Pa Pe Gen Sung Yin De Tong Chen Po Che Du So Sem Tu Ja Je Dang Ti Mu Sung Yin Yum Chen Gong Pa Shi Tu So Chi Kam Sung Ko Wei Sim Jin Ku Ji Kata Kie Me Chimporu Du Nyam Du Trowa Chingilo Se Mari De Dang De Jin Je Ju Dame Tu Shu Chin Boi Du Tada Tin Do Di Ru Ju Yin Ju Gu Ye Sa Sin Baru Pa Jetsu Lame Jingilo Hoi Hoi Hoi. Pelin zawe lama rinpoche daki chiwo pime desu na kalin chiwo kone je kuzon toki moto chota cho chanso stemto rinpoche marke panen kiki ki kewa nyampa me gone gondo peldo pelwar sho. So we can use that prayer and also the transferring to the city of the three Vajras before any session of practice if we want. Those two go before pretty much every THROMA practice, every sadhana practice, the short THROMA or the medium THROMA. But you can do it before a session of meditation. There's nothing better than just praying to the Lama and letting go. I apologize for the bug eyes here. I'm stuck with one light source. So, is everybody with me here? Last time we I was trying to remember exactly where we stopped, and there were so many long answers to questions that I even as I searched to the end of the last video, I didn't find it. I think we finished the 8 weighty downfalls. Does anybody have notes on that?
Yes, you're ready for the special sacred commitments of the 5 families.
Fantastic. Okay. So on page 31. So for the special, these 14 root downfalls and 8 branches, let's see. Oh, we're all the way to the 5 families at the bottom of 31.
That's what I have in my notes from last time.
Yeah, I think I talked about the creation stage, didn't I? Yeah, we
Yes,
talked. We talked about Nang Si Jirzheng, appearance and possibility, rising up as the basis.
you said the Togol is in the Treksha.
Yes, it is. Everything is in the fertile. That's what it means by what's meant by the fertile expanse. It's fertile. It's fecund. Everything is there. The Great Mother is pregnant with everything that ever has been and ever will be. And that space is just, it's there. You can't create it. You try to create it, and that's not it. There's no it. You just open up. Let go and open up. So, for the special sacred commitments of the Dakinis of the 5 families, being loving to all sentient beings and completely abandoning anger is the samaya of the Buddha Dakinis. So the Buddha Dakini of the central direction is usually associated with space. But the nature of just the ultimate open space is love, non-referential love and compassion for any and all sentient beings that just happens by itself. And there's no anger in that space. Being without attachment to any phenomenal appearances or desirable qualities is the samaya of the Ratna Dakinis. So the Ratna jewel family is usually associated with the abundance and richness, wealth, qualities. So the samaya of that family is not to have any attachment to appearances whatsoever. As taught in the Tantras, relying on a fully qualified wisdom goddess as well as consuming great smell, great water, rakta, mamsa, vajra splendor, which are the 5 elixirs, and also elephant flesh, human flesh, horse flesh, dog flesh, and the cow or peacock flesh, which are the 5 great meats. This is the samaya of the Padma Dakini. So the lotus family, Padma, is associated with discriminating wisdom and magnetizing activity, overpowering, magnetizing. And so the samaya of the Padma Dakinis, relying on a fully qualified wisdom goddess, as well as consuming great smell. So that really means we're taking the ultimate wisdom goddess is the vast space of the fertile expanse. So if you let your mind open up into the natural state, then you're in union with the Great Mother. That's the ultimate relying on a qualified wisdom goddess. Generally speaking, in Tantra, we're taking every aspect of our life into the practice. And so, even if you're not practicing the Tsalung yogas where it's explicit, in the Dzogchen also, you try to bring your practice into that part of your life. That's not so easy to do. You've got to really have a little bit of stable experience to do that. Consuming great smell, that's poop. Great water, that's pee. Rakta, that's blood. Mamsa, that's meat. And Vajra splendor, that's semen. So, there's a lot to say about that. Those are all forms of the five Buddhas, of the five Buddha families. So it's taught that the Buddha Ratna Sambhava from the Ratna family, the jewel family, that poop is actually the Buddha Ratna Sambhava. And that I'm going to forget the other families. I think Rakta, blood, is the lotus family. And yeah, without a text, I'm going to explain that wrong. But those are the five elixirs. And so actually, there's a tiny homeopathic amount of all of that in Amrita, Tutsi. And that's about, there are in the old text certain practices. But basically, in the Amrita Dutsi, the Dharma medicine that you sometimes get from lamas, it's made in drupchens. There's the five meats and the five nectars. And the five meats were meat that were not eaten, that were not killed for their flesh in ancient India. So cows, peacocks, dogs, horses, human beings, elephants were not killed for their flesh. But that meat, if you can get it, is the five meats. So the five meats and the five elixirs are actually, there's kind of homeopathic versions of that in each of the, in that little Dharma medicine that we do a tzok offering or an empowerment that gets sprinkled in the wine there, along with a lot of other medicinal ingredients that are charged up with mantras. So what is that really about is seeing everything as pure. There's the five meats and the five nectars are actually the expression of are actually a form of the Buddhas of the five Buddha families. And so in a lot of tantric rituals, we'll visualize when we bless the offering substances a vast skull cup, and above that the five Buddha families, the five Buddhas of the five Buddha families, dissolving into light and dissolving into nectar. The general sacred commitments of the Dakinis are as follows: wearing the regalia of the extraordinary disciplined conduct of mantra, such as bone ornaments, dance costumes, and so forth, and enjoying sensual delights in Vajra song, as well as cruel and raging, wrathful behavior of the samaya, the Vajra Dakinis. So, the ritual practices where we take wine, meat, delicious foods, sing, dance, that's all the samaya, the Vajra Dakinis, as well as cruel and raging, wrathful behavior. Actually, as part of the practice, THROMA is sometimes really wrathful. The essence of the practice, of should practice when you go wander, is offering the aggregates of your body to all of the spirits and non-human beings that live in the place. And so it's something very gentle. It's the only tantric practice out there where you don't make a boundary out of the mandala and chase away the obstacle makers. You invite them. And it's like Machik Labdran said, the gods and demons of cyclic existence are my friends. They help me with my practice. And but there are parts of the practice where you visualize THROMA is really wrathful. I talked about some of that last session. And that's also motivated from compassion. And there's also, part of what this is saying is all of the different things we do in samsara, the enjoying things, acting out, dancing, dressing up, being loving and kind, being tough and difficult, all of that should be taken as part of our practice. And it's really interesting. People talk about, sometimes when people talk about THROMA, they talk about charnel ground practice. But actually, that's not the term. The term is nyensa, challenging places. So, the challenging place can be a charnel ground or a lonely wilderness with wild animals or bandits, or it could also be Walmart. It could also be your workplace or your family occasion, going home to visit your family. Rushing and jumping is the samaya of the karma dakinis. May authentically take all of this conduct to the limit. So what it's saying is there's a very elaborate ritual practice that we do as part of THROMA. It's kind of, sometimes I think of THROMA as like taking all the different technologies and putting them, just spiritual technologies, and putting them together into one package. Like, you can, there's ways of practicing. People just keep it really simple. They do a very simple mudra and just sit. Or then there's creation stage. There's Treksha and Tugel. There's the wandering practice, but with the wandering practice, then we've got all of these visualizations and songs and ritual instruments. And when there's so much to do. That's one of the hard things about this. You have to learn how to use the drum, you have to learn how to use the bell, you have to learn the melodies, you have to learn the pujas, and you have to get to the point where you can do all of that stuff. And just give up and let go into that space of your treksha. So there's this, all of this training and acting out, and there's this ritual acting out, right? And then at the same time, there's a kind of real life coming at you in the same way, all kinds of different experiences, things that, and keeping that, letting go into the space of the practice in the middle of that. It's elaborate practice, to learn to use the drum, the bell, the horn, remember the visualizations, keep everything going. And then sometimes you're doing that alone, somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. The cumulative samaya is to be challenged by impossible situations like challenging places and so forth. To completely cut the visible material bonds of ordinary food, clothes, and useless chatter, and to reverse from deep within the craving thoughts, which are attachment to samsara throughout the cycle of day and night, to cut the thread of subtle pride that is grasped onto and perceived as being so precious. So, to be challenged by the impossible situations is, there's a couple of ways to think about that. In one way, what it's referring to is, do you guys hear me clearly? There's a bunch of noise in the background on my end. Is it, you getting it clear? It's okay, good. That's why I'm using these. The Anis are in the next room doing their morning practice. So, to be challenged by the impossible. That's the unique thing about the THROMA practice. And even just when you're doing the mundro, it tends to be challenging. The principle in THROMA is when you're really connecting with the practice, you're going to get long say upheavals. She tends to provoke upheavals. She stirs things up. So there's some styles of practice, like we do Tara practice or Avalokiteshvara practice. It's very peaceful. And that peacefulness is to chill everything out, gentle, easy. And that's the space where we kind of, that's the energy we're using to enter the practice. In THROMA, the energy is stir things up, force yourself to let go. And it's why it's such a powerful practice. So the idea behind wandering in challenging places or doing retreats where you bring those practices in, and you can have challenging experiences, is you have to let go. You have to go for refuge to the view. You put yourself in it's sort of an impossible situation. Now, from the But also, you can interpret this a little bit differently, to be challenged by the impossible situations, like challenging places and so forth, to completely cut the visible material bonds of ordinary food, clothes, and useless chatter. That's when you really wander alone in the wilderness. Now, even if we can't do that, we're still going to get some upheavals provoked by the practice, and we can still without, we're none of us are going to become wandering beggars and living up in the mountains. We can't do that. But we can remember that food, clothes, all of this sort of ordinary daily activities, it's all just tying us to distraction and confusion. So the more we can just let go of that, not care about that, see it as a dream, to reverse from deep within the craving thoughts, which are attachment to samsara. That's why the four thoughts that turn the mind are so important. The more we can really just see that as just a dream, lights on a screen, not so important, and let go, then we can cut the thread of subtle pride that is grasped onto. In other words, that's the sense of self, the self-cherishing. And the practice, the THROMA practice, is designed to go straight at that. The offering the body, the dealing with challenging situations and just letting go into that. There's another way of reading that also. The view is very difficult. In a sense, it's impossible. The four samayas of the Dzogchen tradition that hold all the 100,000 samayas of the Vajrayana are called the four samayas which we can't keep, right? Non-existence, uniformity, oneness, natural self-accomplishment. And so, to be challenged by impossible situations, it's really just, letting go into the nature and staying there. And that's the key. It's the key for every practice. And all these other practices we're doing are to help us let go into that. And that THROMA, there's just, you've got the blessed melodies, and you've got the ritual music, and you've got this profound meaning of the words, and you've got the whole visualization practice, and you've got these profound instructions on the meditation. It's all there, all the different tools coming together. I've been thinking about this summer. I've been thinking about what to do also as we get close to the end of this, whether to actually teach you guys the longer sadhana or not. I think maybe what we should do is, I'm thinking of setting aside 2 or 3 weeks in August and September where whoever can come down to my place, we can just do the THROMA soak and the THROMA mundro and some song practice and maybe the 4 feasts. The 4 feasts is just like a song of the view over and over and over again. When you practice together in a group, it really helps. So just trying to do this, trying to what is it to be challenged by impossible situations like challenging places and so forth? It's also just a description of what it means to bring the practice into our daily life. And the root of that is the subtle pride that's grasped onto and perceived as being so precious. That's the sense of self. And if you cut that, all the craving thoughts, all the attachment, all the aggression, all the aversion, all the jealousy, all the confusion falls apart. There's 4 feasts: the white feast in the pre-dawn hours, the black feast pre-dawn hours, the white feast in the morning after dawn, the variegated feast is sometime during the midday, and the red feast in the evening after the sun has started to go down. But there's also a short, concise feast. It's part of the THROMA. And the first 2 lines of that are amazing. It like summarizes everything. Zungzin Chupin Namto Rangosang Kunid Wangdu Kenang Zilinen. The delusion, the delusory appearances that arise from the grasper and the grasp. Zungzin Chupin Namto. Deluded thoughts that arise that based on the grasper and the grasp are fresh and pure on their own face. If you gunid wangdu, if the cause itself is overpowered, then Kenang Zugin, the conditions are subdued with awesome splendor. What that basically means is if you just get the view, right? If you cut the thread of subtle pride, how do you cut that thread of subtle pride that's grasped onto that sense of self? I, me, mine. Is you open up into the ground, open up into the view. But until we get there, then all of these practices like the 4 thoughts, these practices like going through the stages of practice, wandering, letting go of ordinary attachments, it puts us in a workable state where we can actually do that. According to the methods of this profound path and the offering of my own body and of the non-dual view, which is the ultimate consummation of the offering of the Dharma, may I liberate the gods and demons, which are the reification of perceiving the deluded phenomena of grasper and grasped, whatever appears and is possible as either beneficial or harmful, as well as all sentient beings from the realm of impure deluded appearances. So the practice of the offering oneself as a feast for the 4 feasts in the wandering practice, offering one's body aggregates. So the methods of this profound path, one is that practice of the inner offering, and then, but the ultimate offering is the non-dual view, and that's the ultimate offering of the Dharma. So for example, we talk about when we do song practice, we offer smoke offerings. And then part of that is, there's a line in this practice is, please take this offering and give rise to compassion, give rise to bodhicitta, have the thought of compassion. And the beings that receive that, if they feel your bodhicitta, if they can give rise to a thought of compassion, they're liberated from that hungry ghost kind of, or demonic, or aggressive existence that they're trapped in by that, the karma that's caused them to be reborn in that way, if they can just have the thought of bodhicitta. But the ultimate gift of the Dharma is just if you remain in the view. We've all had that experience. That's probably why all of us are doing this. We were around Chögyam Rinpoche or Soksé Rinpoche or some really powerful Tibetan Lama, and we felt something, right? Something changed. So that's the ultimate offering of the Dharma, is just to remain in the view, and that has a profound effect on everyone around us. And in this path, we're particularly relating to the gods and demons of cyclic existence. But ultimately, if you want to understand what the gods and demons of cyclic existence are, they are the reification. In other words, taking something that's intangible and making it into a thing, of perceiving the diluted phenomena of grasper and grasped. Whatever appears in is possible as either beneficial or harmful, right? Beneficial gods and harmful demons. So whatever, grasper and grasped is a way that we talk about how consciousness perceives things, right? Zung Zin, and that's actually the grasped and the grasper, the thing that gets held on to and the thing that's holding on to it. So we've talked before, in English we say subject-object, but in Tibetan they say object-subject, or literally they say Yul and Yulchen, a domain, and the thing that's characterized by the domain. So the domain is when your mind grasps at empty appearance and holds on to a thing, makes a thing. That's the domain. The ground becomes a more limited, circumscribed space. And once that happens, there's a consciousness that's characterized by having created that domain. That's the subject. So in relation to the object, the subject arises. The grasped, the thing that's grasped, and the grasper. And those are those are the demons, the ultimate demons that give rise to all of the phenomena of samsara. Whatever appears and is possible as it appears in itself, it just is. But once the grasper and the grasp get involved, then it's perceived as beneficial or harmful, right? Hope and fear. And so it manifests as the gods and demons of samsara. So we want to liberate them. In other words, all these helpful and harmful beings that are our own projection. And we want to liberate all of sentient beings in the six realms of samsara from the realm of impure, deluded appearances. The phenomena of samsara and nirvana, which from the relative perspective of the deluded phenomenal consciousness appear like a non-existent illusion, Any and all of them, as much as there are exhausted into the inexpressible, inconceivable, fertile expanse of emptiness, the ultimate actual nature. It all comes out of the fertile expanse, and it all dissolves into the fertile expanse. It really helps at the beginning to think of everything like a dream. And you see those examples in the text over and over and over again. But that's only like an example. It's not the full meaning. Everything appears, but if we just leave it as it is, it's fine. It's when we start trying to label it, to push it away, to hold on to it with hope and fear, that we become confused about what's going on. We don't have to argue with appearances. In this very lifetime, without requiring a very long time, as in the other vehicles which require eons. So according to the sutra tradition, by practicing the Bodhisattva path for 3 countless eons of lifetimes, you become a Buddha. But by relying on this path, you can do it in one lifetime. By relying on this profound path, may actually attain the state of the magical Buddha body of primal knowing, the uncorrupted great transference rainbow body, free from the subtle obscurations of the 3 appearances. So, one reason I like teaching this aspiration prayer to everybody is to make people really think about samaya and really sort of go into the meaning of Tantra. And it's a profound subject that you're not going to understand everything, but it gives us a sense of depth. And the samaya is so important. The longer I'm involved, the more I really understand that. And it's hard. I mean, to really practice pure perception. Samsara is messed up. Situations occur. And so keeping really pure perception, pure view of our teachers, our Dharma brothers and sisters, and pure view, enthusiasm, living in our practice. It's absolutely essential, and it becomes hard and unreasonable sometimes because the world is so crazy, because our karma comes up, because we're trying to do something outrageous, incredibly difficult, to actually, after countless lifetimes wandering in samsara, to think you're going to actually do this and get free. It's pretty outrageous and presumptuous, right? Not easy. And so it takes a level of, we need help. It takes a level of commitment, but it also, I mean, that level of commitment is, in the Vajrayana, is so connected to the lineage and to the teacher and to the, and the lineage includes our Dharma brothers and sisters, keeping it really positive. When you do that, slowly but surely there's a kind of magic. And I've seen it again and again, and I've seen when it's not there too. And so, you know, it is possible to attain a rainbow body. We heard stories recently, heard a few stories in recent years from Tibet. Student of Dodru Rinpoche, Ani was a student of Chatra Rinpoche's. but it's very, 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 very rare. Those people are usually, they spend their life alone on retreat. They just practice. They don't have a lot of students or connections with people. The more connections, it's very difficult. And even among Dudjom Lingpa students, there were 13 complete rainbow bodies were prophesied according to these teachings. And it says in the long THROMA text, by practicing these teachings, 13 of your students will attain the state of Vajradhara. And some of them actually went in the rainbow body completely. But like, one of those was Degyal Rinpoche, who taught THROMA in Western Tibet near Mount Kailash. And there's still, his lineage is still in Western Nepal. And actually previous Choje Rinpoche, later in life, took over a Drupa Kagyu monastery in Western Tibet near Kailash. He had spent a lot of time helping Yongzin Rinpoche. Yongzin Rinpoche sent him out there so he could have some time to himself and do retreat. And he met Degyal Rinpoche and became a THROMA practitioner. And Soksi Rinpoche first got THROMA through the previous Choje and the Degyal Rinpoche's lineage, and some of the melodies we do for like the Vajraguru mantra or the Zangchud Monam, Degyal Rinpoche's melodies. Degyal Rinpoche had many, many disciples all over Western Tibet. So he was one of the prophesied rainbow bodies. Actually, what happened with him is he went into his meditation and he just, his life ended. It's called a mardung, a fresh body. He just stayed in meditation, like his body didn't decay. And the Chinese army was getting close to them where their retreats. I wouldn't say monastery, but basically these people lived in mountain retreats. There wasn't even a big monastery. And so the disciples took the Degyal Rinpoche's body down to India to run away from the Chinese, the communist soldiers. And when they crossed the border with India, they were afraid that the Indian border guards wouldn't let them take a corpse across. And so they pretended he was sick, and he'd been in meditation for weeks already. And they gave him an injection, and a drop of blood came out. And they later took Degyal Rinpoche's body down to Orissa in eastern India, to the refugee camp. And his body is still sitting in meditation there in a little temple. It was in a little temple in the jungle until a few years ago. They built a big monastery. It just didn't decay. Previous Choje Rinpoche is similar, was a student of Degyal. His body is, the body of the previous Choje is sitting in meditation at Chumur at 15,000 feet on the border of India and Tibet. Still. So sometimes the rainbow body can take, the rainbow body where everything dissolves into light requires a lot of causes and circumstances. There was a Kempo, Minyak Acho Kempo, who was a disciple of Dudjom Rinpoche, who received he was a Galupa monk who received, who just made a really strong connection in Lhasa. He's from far eastern Tibet. He'd come to Lhasa, studied in the Galupa tradition, made this connection with Dudjom Rinpoche in Lhasa, took the Vajrakalaya empowerment, and had these amazing experiences, went on retreat. And this was in the 40s, when before things got too bad, and went back to this remote part of eastern Tibet and just spent his life completely on retreat. And he wasn't a well-known lama or anybody. He just was a beggar yogi, but he had been trained into the Kempo. He's called Minyak Acho Kempo. And that was back, now it's 30 years ago, it was in the 90s. he disappeared into rainbow light. So you hear these stories, but for example, someone I met in Lama Tsewan Lagyo is a disciple of Dudjom Rinpoche. When he died, his body got much smaller. And then when they cremated him, the eyes, heart, tongue turned to like these solid stone-like relics. It's called Tukchak Chensun. And my friend Jindak actually did the cremation and saw that. I saw him when he was shrunk. Soksi Rinpoche's body became very small. I haven't seen the relics yet. So those are all kind of levels of rainbow body. There's actually a Westerner in France back in, I want to say, just after 2000, early 2000s, a student of Tukupeng Wangyo who had similar sign, Tukchak Chensun. When he died, he sat in meditation for many days and they cremated him. And so you find, he was one of the main students of Tukupeng Wangyo, and he sort of offered everything and became a monk and spent his life practicing. Those are really extraordinary signs. For most practitioners, like a really successful outcome is getting familiar enough with the practice so that when you die, you can remain in the view. And these sort of magical outcomes are possible. It takes an incredible amount of dedication and merit. It takes the merit, the samaya, the merit for the whole thing to work. But the samaya is so key. There was a Dharma brother of mine who had studied with some other lamas, and maybe back in the, I want to say, maybe 30 years ago, 25 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, he met Soksi Rinpoche. And he lived in India. He got a little help, money here and there from people, and mostly lived in India very simply. Spent a lot of time practicing in Bodh Gaya. And whenever I went to Bodh Gaya with Rinpoche, I used to translate for him when he came to Rinpoche to get teachings. And he passed away now. That was a couple of years ago. And sat in meditation for a day and a half. And it was interesting. I didn't think he was going to do it. I had been doing the interviews. I'd known the guy for a long time. He was a good practitioner, but I didn't think he was going to be able to do that. He just kept a really pure relationship with Rinpoche. And in the last few months of his life, he stuck with it. He just had really pure devotion, and he was just committed to his practice. And the Lama pulled him up. And so on the one hand, we all just have a different karma. Sometimes it's very frustrating to do the practice and think, I've been doing this for 10 years, 20 years. How come I'm not at the, awareness reaching full measure? How come I'm not seeing deities? How come I'm just Had all these ordinary, painful thoughts compulsively slamming around my mind and making me crazy.
Losing you off and on, John, you're freezing up.
I'm probably moving myself around too much. I'm in Maratika right now, which is a Guru Rinpoche's cave in Nepal in the mountains where he practiced longevity practice with Mandarawa. It's a little village, so the internet isn't great. Where was I? What was the last thing you heard, Deborah? So I was talking about my friend. If you just, it takes a lot of work. You got to keep working hard, accumulating merit, purifying karma, and doing as much practice as possible. And then it really, keep the samaya is so important. And it pays off in the end. But that pure vision towards the Lama, that openness, that trust, sometimes it doesn't pay off till the very end. But we get glimpses. And sometimes it just happens. You can't make it happen. You have to, all the practice helps us get out of the way. So I think it's time for a bathroom break. I went on a little bit longer. It's 6 minutes after 6. Let's take a 5-minute break, and when we come back, if anybody has any questions, we can do that. Okay?
We lost you again.
How long did you lose me for?
Really, the last 5 minutes, we've only gotten a bit of it. It's been off and on. We keep losing you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back, okay? And see if we can make this work. Did you hear me? Starting on page 22, Ho Lama Yumchen, Ho Great Mother Guru. And then we'll call it a day. Are you hearing me now? Okay, I'm going to just, let's do the aspiration prayer together, dedicate the merit, and then we'll meet in let's see, 2 weeks we'll meet. Ho, Great Mother Guru, Deity Assembly, please heed me, as so excellently symbolized by the merit accomplished here and now. Whatever merit has been accumulated throughout the 3 times, I dedicate to the awakening of all beings throughout space. To in each and every lifetime obtaining a Vajra body of the supreme lineage of the Great Secret, endowed with the 6 good fortunes, without aspiring to the extremes of possibility or peace, may we enter this path of the wondrous vehicle. Hiruka without rival, Dujum Lingpa, never separating from you, supreme sufficient refuge, primordially one taste within the self-aware nature. Please plant realization within our hearts, perfectly entering the unexcelled mandala of the 4 Vajras, ripening my mind stream with the ritual of the 4 empowerments. According to the renowned sacred commitments of the Vajra Dakinis, may I be able to protect them without fault. the primally complete creation stage of appearance and possibility rising up as the basis, and the naturally self-accomplished completion stage of spheres of luminosity. This supreme secret unity is the critical point of the Vajra summit. May I enjoy the treasury of the vastness of space as the path, loving to all without attachment to any, relying on and consuming great meat, the elixir of wisdom, wearing the regalia of disciplined conduct with song and dance and sensual delights. May I take cruel, raging, rushing, and jumping conduct to the limit, to be challenged by the impossible and cutting the bonds, reversing attachment from deep within, cutting the thread of subtle pride that is grasped onto as so precious. With the ultimate offering of my body in the Dharma, may I liberate gods and demons and all sentient beings of appearance and possibility, any and all deluded phenomenal appearances, exhausted into the inexpressible fertile expanse of the actual nature. In this very life, may I actually attain the magical Buddha body of primal knowing, the rainbow body free from obscuration. And if my enthusiasm and ability to become familiar and gain mastery is not adequate, if I don't reach the consummation of the path in this life, at the time of death, my meditative absorption persisting in the unwavering state of Buddha mind, may I pass on. Self-appearance, the assembly of heroes and dakinis, escorting me with music, song, and dance to the joyous pure realm of unexcelled active space. May I meet the Lama, Lord of the family. The unobstructed aspect of appearance is the Heruka, the supreme skillful means. Great emptiness wisdom is the space of the wrathful mother, the queen of the fertile expanse. Their union is great bliss, primal knowing, pervading space. May I achieve the unity of a victorious Vajra holder. So hopefully next time I'll have a little bit better internet. In the meantime, I'll keep praying for all of you. I've been in Maratika here in the mountains of Nepal with Rinpoche's nuns doing pilgrimage. And I keep you in my prayers. Every practice we do. And I'll be in touch with email about the next class. So, love y'all. Keep doing the impossible.
Thank you.
Be safe.